yeah, welcome to me talking today about PowerShell DSC package management with Chocolatey. There's a couple of things I want to get out of the way before I start. This is listed on the schedule as an advanced talk. It's not, okay? There is also no demos in this talk today. So I'm saying that now to allow you guys, if you want to leave and go and see another talk that might be a bit more to your liking, then please do so. Okay, what we're going to do is we're actually going to cover the options of how you would manage Chocolatey with DSC. There's a little bit of code in the slides, but we're not going to have any demos and dig into anything. So now's your opportunity to run and go somewhere else. No? Okay. As I mentioned yesterday, if you'd seen my talk yesterday, this is the second talk I've given in person since 2019, so I'm a little bit rusty, but hopefully it'll go well today. So let's just kick off with thanking the sponsors for sponsoring the event this week. And then the traditional, who am I and why am I qualified to speak to you slide. I need to also keep adjusting this so you can hear me properly. So my name is Paul Broadwith. I'm a technical engineer manager at Chocolatey Software. So any of the Chocolatey products you use, I'm responsible for, and so is my team. And that includes what we're going to look at as the cChoco DSC Resource from Chocolatey as well. We'll come to that as we go through the slides. I'm also from Glasgow in Scotland, and I've got over 30 years in IT in lots of different sectors, from manufacturing, finance, defence, all these different places. As someone kindly put it, I've been around a bit. I'm Microsoft MVP for Cloud and Data Center, primarily for my PowerShell work, but there is no award for PowerShell. It's Cloud and Data Center we're all lumped under. And I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer as well. So this is the slide that I always have. If you've ever seen any of my talks, you'll know this slide. This is to remind me, first of all, to tell you that's the flag of my country. And secondly, that we tend to speak very fast in Scotland. Not everybody's first language is English. So if I'm speaking too fast, let me know and I'll slow down. Okay. So the agenda, we've got a really straightforward agenda today. We're just going to look at the options to manage Chocolatey with DSC. What is actually available? What can we do? The comparisons between those options and questions. And if you can keep those questions to the end, that would be awesome. So we've got 30 minutes to talk, and we've got 15 minutes for questions. Okay. So hopefully that will cover it all. So options to manage Chocolatey with DSC, what is actually available? So we've got the PowerShell package management provider. So DSC has a package management resource built into it. So, you know, there are Chocolatey package management providers out there. So we're going to look at some of them. There's a Chocolatey community Chocolatey PowerShell module in DSC Resource. That's not officially supported by Chocolatey, it's the Chocolatey community. So it's important to kind of stress that, because the next one we're going to look at is the Chocolatey official DSC Resource, which is cChoco. It's been around a long time, hence the naming convention doesn't really apply to anything that you would know as a DSC resource today. So PowerShell package management providers. We're going to look at 3 of them. And the first one here is called Chocolatey Winget. Now that first commit for that was November 2014, so you know it's almost 8 years old now, and it was done by Garrett Serak. I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. I actually thought that was Feather Cowboy. I've switched the R round. It's actually Fear the Cowboy is his name. So he created that officially back in November 2014, and then he transferred it to the Chocolatey community in February 2015, and we started officially supporting that then. And it was deprecated in June 2022, which, as you'll probably know, was this month, because while I was doing this talk, I realized we hadn't done that. So I actually did it yesterday. We had talked about it for quite some time, but I just never got round to actually doing it. So it's now been deprecated in favor of Chocolatey Get, which we'll come to in a second. It's still there. I believe it still works. We'll talk about a little bit why I believe and don't know it later on, but that's one of the options that was there and might still be an option for you if you want to use it. We also have one called Chocolatey. Now this one I feel a little bit responsible for. This story that I'm about to kind of talk about is what I understand the situation is. So if Ethan is watching this on YouTube, these go up on YouTube and it's not the case, hopefully Ethan will let me know. So this is just my understanding. But Ethan tried to raise a pull request against Chocolatey Winget, and we promised we would look at it, and we didn't. And I think Ethan got frustrated, understandably so, and created Chocolatey from that. That only lasted just under a year, so it was first created in January 2020. And then in October 2020, he actually deprecated it in favour of Chocolatey Get as well. So the actual project, Chocolatey, was heavily influenced by Chocolatey Get to begin with. So as I said, Ethan, if that's not correct, please correct me. But that's what I understand the situation is. So we get to the one that everybody's deprecating everything in favour of, which is Chocolatey Get, and there's not much information on that. As you can see, it was first created, or commit was done in September 2016, so, it's 6 years old, fairly mature. And I'm hopefully going to say his name correctly. It's Jan Yoon, and that's the GitHub handle there. It's a currently active project. It's recommended by the community. If you look for a Chocolatey package management provider, that's the one everybody talks about. It's fairly mature. I've been using it myself. It's part of the research for this talk. Obviously, I've installed that. I've tried to play around with it. It all seems to be great. So yeah, it's the one that everybody recommends, and it's the one that seems to work really well. So, as I said, the Chocolatey one, the official one, we've deprecated in favour of this. The Chocolatier project that Ethan had started, he's deprecated it in favour of this as well. So this is the one that if you want to do a Chocolatey package management provider, this is the one you would use. There may be other package management providers out there. As is the case, there's everything on GitHub, there's everything you can search for. But Chocolatey Get, as I said, seems to be one that's most recommended. There may be another one next year that appears that has better support or whatever. But at the moment, that is the one that I would recommend you use if you want a PowerShell package management provider for Chocolatey. And then we've got the Chocolatey Community Chocolatey module in DSC Resource. Bit of a mouthful of words there. The module's actually called Chocolatey, which is why it's in a slightly different font. And if any of you know Gail, you probably know he's the one that wrote this. Or at least started to write it. Obviously, there's community members. Rob Sewell as well has committed to it. But he did the first commit to that in October 2017. So again, we're talking something that's 5 years old now. It's part of the, excuse me, it's part of the Chocolatey Community GitHub organisation now as well. So Gail, me and Gail had a conversation a couple of years ago. I'm not sure where it started, whether it was under Gail's actual GitHub organisation or whether it was under the DSC community one. I can't remember. I'm fairly certain it was under Gail's one, and he was looking to transfer it potentially to Chocolatey Community. So we accepted that, and he maintains it in the Chocolatey Community GitHub organisation. But the difference between this one and the cChoco one we'll come to in just a second is this is a PowerShell module and DSC resources all in one project. So you can actually install it as a PowerShell module and not worry about DSC at all and have a play around with it. Just, work with packages, manage packages, all that good stuff. It works. And then you can, if you want to use DSC, you can use the resources which use the actual code in the PowerShell module as well. So it's awesome. And it's actively maintained. I think the last release was August last year, and that was the last commit when I was having a look at it. And it's at version 0.20, preview 0.02, and we'll talk about that later on. But I think it's had 3 releases so far, but it's really mature, it works really well, and it's fairly stable. So the official Chocolatey DSC resource, let's go into the history a little bit of that. So we've talked about the other one. So the first commit was made by Steve Marowski in October 2014. I don't know if, I'd imagine everybody here knows who Steve Marowski is. I actually didn't know he started this module off, despite the fact that I kind of started maintaining it in October 2018. So that was actually news to me. But when I was looking at the commit history to see who started it, that's who it was. I always understood that it was Lawrence Gripper and Eugene Becker who had really looked after it to begin with, and they had started it off. And they did primarily do a lot of the code. I think the only commit that Steve Marowski had done was the first one. I didn't dig into the commit history too much, but yeah, it seems to be Lawrence Gripper and Eugene Becker who've really worked on that. Rob Reynolds, who's the CEO of Chocolatey Software, he really started to heavily commit to it in April 2017, and I started to maintain it in October 2018. So I spoke to Rob about, it didn't have a lot of love. Again, something we'll talk to later on. And as always the classic case, when you ask about something, they give it to you. So he said, well, you can start to maintain it. I should never have asked the question, but that's where it came from, and that's where we are today. So managing Chocolatey, so we're managing Chocolatey things for the best description. What is it we need to cover? What are the big things that people need to do? And there's 5 fundamental areas of Chocolatey, I would say. anyway. And that's installing Chocolatey CLI itself. The most fundamental one. Without that, you don't get anything. There's managing packages, managing sources, managing features, and managing config. Those are the really big areas for Chocolatey. So let's look at cChoco and how it manages those areas. And we're going to concentrate on this a little bit. Primarily, as I said, it's the official DSC resource at the moment, and it's the one I'm more familiar with. But the other ones, the Chocolatey community module will be very similar to this. Obviously, it'll be different names, etc., but it'll be very similar. So this is the little bits of code that we're going to look at. There's going to be no more really than some of these slides with little chunks of code. But this is installing Chocolatey CLI, so it's just a cChoco installer resource that you're using there. One of the things that I knew about but never really thought how much of a pain it actually is you actually always have to give it an install directory. So if you install Chocolatey from the Chocolatey website, you execute the code, it downloads it, installs it into, by default, C program data as Chocolatey. Okay. I don't know why the DSC resource doesn't do that by default, and then you can give it a separate install directory. Unsure of that, but you have to do that for this. And all it does is install Chocolatey. And as I've said there, you need to install Chocolatey before you do anything because it's not installed automatically. For example, if you the first thing you do is go install a package, which we'll come to in a second, it'll fail because Chocolatey is not installed. It doesn't look and go, Chocolatey is not there. I better install Chocolatey, then I'll install the package. It doesn't do that. So you need to do that first. But what it does support is installing Chocolatey CLI in your organization. Okay. There was a PR submitted by Timothy McCroy-C Engage. I couldn't actually find out its full name. I assume it's Timothy McCroy, but that's his GitHub handle. And he submitted a PR to get this to work. And it's the Chocolatey install script supports an environment variable, Chocolatey download URL. So all this is actually setting that variable before you install Chocolatey CLI, and it will pull the Chocolatey package from your internal NuGet repository. So if you've got something like Sonatype Nexus, maybe Artifactory, ProGet, whatever, then it will actually take the package from there rather than downloading it from the Chocolatey community repository. Okay, so it keeps everything in your organization. Installing a single package, really straightforward here. We've got a few options that we're using. So it's a cChoco package installer. I'm installing Google Chrome here with a version. That's all we're doing. We're installing the version 101.0.495.141. That's all we're doing. And we're giving it a source. Again, you can pull that from your internal repository, your Sonatype Nexus, your Artifactory, as I mentioned. But you can also you can also provide package parameters in the params. And a minimum version as well. So you can go away and, get the latest version or at least the minimum version that you want, and it'll fail if that's not available. And again, we've got the depends on. We've got them all in this code. Depends on installing Chocolatey because it doesn't work without it. Wrong way. You can also install multiple packages at once. Just the cChoco package installer set. And we've got 3 packages there. Obviously, that doesn't support version. It's a bit like when you're running it from the command line, Choco CLI from the command line. You're installing, let's say, Google Chrome Get and Putty again. You can't use the version parameter because it doesn't make sense. Version's applicable to one package. It's not applicable to a range of 3 packages. But you can specify the source there. I haven't added it in. Again, pull from your internal Nexus or Artifactory repository. It all works. So that you can use that in your organization. Managing sources, that's really important, again, organization-wise, or even at home, you want to add in a source. I've got a local source at home where I pull all the packages down because I've got multiple machines to update. So with the cChoco source, you can manage those sources. You can add, add and remove a source. But again, strangely, you cannot enable or disable a source. I've found when I've been maintaining it, I've been concentrating on bug fixes and adding features and looking at problems, etc. I didn't actually know you couldn't disable or enable a source with the cChoco DSC resource. So that was a new one on me, and I raised an issue for that. You'll see the blue line there. These will be available on my website. So this is why the blue line's there. You can click on it and go to the link. Obviously, you can't do that here, but there's an issue raised for that, so we can get that added in. And again, when you're playing with sources, or managing sources with Chocolatey, there's different options you can add. Admin only is there, self-service and proxy bypass. You can do that from the Chocolatey command line. But you can't do it with the DSC resource either. Sorry, you can't do it with the DSC resource. Again, I'm not sure why those ones weren't added in, because they're fairly important for an organisation. So again, I've raised another issue for that, and we'll get something done about that. But you live and learn. Enabling, disabling features. Yeah, there's not much to talk about here. It's a cChoco feature. You would, they allow global confirmation if you're not aware, saves you putting -y at the end of your command line every time. That's all that does. And you can run that from the Chocolatey command line as well. So that allows you to enable or disable those features. And changing configs, the same thing, except you give it a value. Simple as that. Virus scanner type there, we're saying, hey, use virus total, and get your virus results from that. So we're rushing through this fairly quickly. What are we at, 15? Yeah, we've got 50 minutes left. So we're going to look at comparing the options between the three. And if time keeps going, we'll probably finish a little bit early. So again, just to remind us of the 5 fundamental parts that we need to really manage with DSC for Chocolatey. And we're just going to compare the options, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the different caveats, etc. So automatically installing, what that means is when you install a package, let's say, as I said earlier on, it'll check Chocolatey's installed. If it's not, it'll install it for you. That's all the auto install is. Chocolatey Get actually installs that when you install the provider. So it's sort of it is an auto install, as in it automatically installs it, but it automatically installs it when you add in the provider itself. Chocolatey does it. The Chocolatey module does that. It checks, installs if it's needed. cChoco doesn't, as I've said earlier on. You have to manually install Chocolatey using the code that we had earlier on. Installing Chocolatey separately. So what I mean by that is you can actually install the Chocolatey CLI on its own. You don't have to install a package to get it there. You can install it on its own. The Chocolatey Get one, the caveat to that is, as I just said, you can't really install it separately, because as soon as you install a provider, it's installed. So there's no option to do that. The Chocolatey module, I think it's install Chocolatey software. Install-Chocolatey software is in the Chocolatey module. So you can just install Chocolatey and nothing else. cChoco, you can do that. We've talked about that. Organization install, which is, can you specify where to download that Chocolatey package from, rather than downloading it from a Chocolatey community repository. Chocolatey Get doesn't, I've put the asterisk there because as far as I can see it doesn't. You just install the provider, there's no options to say, hey, pull the package from here. I could be wrong on that, but I certainly couldn't find a way to do it. So it'll automatically do it for you. Chocolatey, you can specify where that one lives on your Nexus Artifactory, and the same with cChoco. You can specify that as well. So in an organization, if you've got your Chocolatey package internalized, maybe the Chocolatey Get provider is not one that you want to use, unless you go away and install that some other way behind the back of the provider itself. So managing Chocolatey packages, a lot of things you want to do. So I've listed 6 things there that you're really wanting to do with your Chocolatey packages, and how the 3 options we're looking at actually compare. So the all install packages, that's the fundamental. If they don't install packages, there would be no point having them, because that's what we do with Chocolatey vast majority of time. We've got upgrade packages, they all do that. The caveat for Chocolatey Get is that there is no upgrade-package commandlet there. It's just install package again, and it'll go away and install the latest. So yeah, if you've got, we had Google Chrome there. If you had version 10 of Google Chrome, let's say, and you ran install package again with Google Chrome, it'll go away and pull down the latest without you doing an upgrade, if you like. So it's the same, the commandlet does the same thing. Pin, Chocolatey Get doesn't support pinning packages. If you don't know what pinning packages are, again, Google Chrome, you've got version 10. I know that's woefully out of date, we're at 101 or something, 102. But if you want to pin to version 10 and say, I don't ever want to upgrade this, I need this for whatever reason, then a Choco upgrade of it will ignore that. So there's a way you manage those pins. Chocolatey Get doesn't have any concept of pins at all, because the package management provider has no concept of pins at all. Okay? Chocolatey does, and cChoco doesn't either. There's no way to pin packages that I could find for cChoco, which is disappointing as well. Uninstall, they all do it. Listen local, they all do it, and they'll list from the remote source. Again, your internal repository or Chocolatey community repository, you can list all the packages on there. They will all do that. Chocolatey sources. Installing, that should actually be installing, sorry, from a source, they can all do that. Listing the sources so you can get whatever is available, they'll all do that. And managing sources, they can all do that as well. The caveat for Chocolatey Get is that you can't enable or disable, sorry, Chocolatey Get and cChoco, as we talked about, you can't enable or disable a source. The package management provider, again, has no concept of enabling or disabling the source. That's a PowerShell package management provider. That's not a Chocolatey Get limitation. That's the package manager provider in PowerShell that has that limitation. No concept of enable and disable, just add and remove. And cChoco has it as well. As we talked about earlier on, I've raised an issue to get that added. One of the things that I had read about the Chocolatey Get one is you can only install from certain sources. It'll install packages from the Chocolatey source, or it will install packages from the first source that it finds. So if you've got multiple internal sources, it'll only use the first one there. If you haven't got the Chocolatey source added. If you remove that Chocolatey source and add your own internal source, then it will just pick the first one. So again, I don't know if it's a package management provider, a limitation, or it's a Chocolatey Get one, but if you're using Chocolatey Get, that is a limitation there. Chocolatey features and config. Chocolatey Get, the package management provider, yet again, is no concept of features and config. It is managing packages. Features and config are a Chocolatey thing. So it can't manage them. Chocolatey and cChoco can. So an overview of the three options that we had. The Chocolatey Get package management provider, it's native PowerShell integration. So a lot of people will like that. It's a PowerShell thing, okay? It's all built in, it's great, I'll use that. It's very simple commandlets. There's only about 6 of them or something. It's great, simple and easy to use. It's mature, it's been around since 2016. But it does have limitations as we went through there. Excuse me, for pinning and other things. But it might meet your use case. If your use case is just installing, uninstalling packages, that's it. Package management provider may be fantastic and may just do what you need to do. Having used it, it seems pretty solid. I haven't found any issues with it so far. I haven't given it a huge test drive, but yeah, as I said, it might meet your need. And you can use that with a package management DSC resource as well. So it all works very well with DSC. The Chocolatey community module. The current version is a 0.20 preview 0.02 release, and that was released in August last year. So immediately, without criticising the module, I know immediately some customers of Chocolatey will say, we can't use that. That's a preview version. There is no way we're putting that into production. It's also a pre-1 version, something we had problems with. If you know anything about Chocolatey, we've only recently released version 1 of that after 11 years. And I know there are some customers that wouldn't use it because it was a pre-version 1, despite the fact it was, at the time, 10 and a bit years old. So it's just that number. It's a mental block for some people. I totally get it. It's not a criticism. I absolutely do get it. So that might be a limitation for some people. It's a preview release or it's less than version 1. We can't use it. The previous release to that was 0.079, I believe. So it's not a preview release, but it's still less than version 1. So again, you've still got those problems that you might not be able to use it in an organization for reasons. But to be fair to it, it actually feels more mature than its age suggests. There's only been 3 releases, as I said, but it's, again, fairly solid. And I really love the fact that you can take the PowerShell module and just use it. I've got the PowerShell module installed on my machine. It just works. It's great being able to pull stuff back natively and getting objects back, rather than having to run Choco and then parse those results. If you ever tried to get Chocolatey results into PowerShell, you'll know you've got to parse things and all that stuff. And it's not difficult to do, but if there's a module that does it for you, all the better. Why reinvent the wheel? It's written by Gail Colas, as I mentioned. He's a big player in the DSC community. If you guys, I assume you're here because of DSC, so you'll know Gail. He's on, as I said, he's well known in the DSC community. So that's a big plus going for it as well, despite the fact it's a preview release, despite the fact it's less than version 1. It's a big thing going for it. And as I mentioned at the end, there can be used as a PowerShell module, as a DSC resource. It gives you a lot of flexibility in what you want to do with it. Then you've got the Chocolatey official cChoco DSC resource. It is the official DSC resource. I put that there not to kind of, hey, you got to use this, but more of the fact that what I talked about with the Chocolatey module, in that it was pre-version 1 and it was a preview release. When people do actually want officially supported things, they want an officially supported DSC resource. They want an official Ansible collection. Even though one supported by the community might be far better, they want official ones. That's just some way some organizations work. You might know that if you're working in one of those organizations. And again, I get that, totally fine. So that's why I put it as the official DSC resource, because a lot of people will use it primarily because of that. It's been around for a long time and as mature as we looked at when the first commit was done back in 2014. But to be fair to it, it's not had a lot of love for a long time. If any of you guys use cChoco, you'll know this. PRs are not being reviewed in a regular cadence. There's not a lot of issues there, but they're not getting a lot of traction, to be fair. What do we do with that? Do we give it some love? Do we maybe deprecate it in favour of Gail Colas's one, the Chocolatey Community Chocolatey module? You know, there's options there. There's no point. Is there any point in maintaining both? These are discussions that need to be had. And it's missing the pin feature, which, yeah, it's one of those things that is often used by people, particularly in organizations. Again, you'll install a particular browser, for example, and pin to that version because you need it for legacy app A, and it's not there. So there's some minor features missing as well, which are easy enough to add. But again, it's not had a lot of love. What do we do? So those are the options that we went through. I'm actually just about 3 minutes under, so I'll just speak really slowly. We know what options to manage Chocolatey with DSC, hopefully. We've got the package management provider. We had 3 of those, 2 have been deprecated. We've got the Chocolatey Get one, which is there, alive, being supported and actively maintained. We know what the cChoco code looks like. We've seen that in the slides. Again, it's just DSC code. You guys have probably all used DSC, so there was no point digging into more of that. You know what DSC code looks like, and it will be applicable code for the Chocolatey module and Chocolatey DSC resources as well. We know what features are offered by the providers. We went through all that comparison chart there and found out, some are missing from cChoco. The package management provider will just not do certain things and will never do it. So if these are things you need, that's never going to be an option for you. And we hopefully now have a better informed decision about what we should use. So what we're going to use to manage manage Chocolatey packages with DSC going forward. So I'm 2 minutes early. Do we have any questions from anybody? It's cool if we don't. Okay. Thank you very much. There's some resources that you would find on my website. As I said, when you have a look at that, that's my details. I'm available in the Chocolatey booth today. We're going to do a sponsor talk at 1 o'clock, over, I think it's 1 o'clock, 1:45, over at where the coffee, etc. is. But otherwise, yeah, have a good rest of the conference. Thank you very much.